Initially, there are so many things that God involves you in, but all of them have a crucial role to play in the primary ministry that God is calling you to. A quote from Professor Masego from episode 15 of season 1 of the Becoming a Man podcast. And so, if you don't know that episode that I'm referring to, you can check it out on the playlist right there on your device. But this is a conversation I had with him. And if you want to find this specific quotes that I'm quoting, you'll find it 45 minutes into the episode where I was chatting with him around the topic of being what you didn't have for yourself. And that brings me to the episode that we're focusing on today as we launch season 2, and that is building capacity in your younger years. Capacity is something that we speak of in many regards, and usually just speaks to how much we can handle, how much we have room for, what we can take on, and what we can steward and carry. And so this concept of building capacity in your younger years, when Professor Masego said this, it was something that I never thought of, but it stuck with me, and I found myself really thinking about it and realizing how much truth it carries. So let me tell you a story. Here I was, it was 2017, and I was in Johannesburg for the first time in my life. I'd finished matric the previous year, and being a Zulu guy, KZN, born and raised, for the first time in my life, I was outside of KZN. I'd never left the province, never left the country my entire life. And here I am now, Johannesburg, and I'm here to study my undergrad degree at the University of the Witwatersrand. So I'm here to get the edge. If you know, you know. And I'm new in this space. And the person, a friend I had made in the building where I was staying, was like, "Hey, have you found a church?" "No, I haven't." "Hey, come check out the church where I've been attending." And so I agreed. I was like, "Okay, cool. I'll come check it out on Sunday." And so I go, and spoiler alert, it's the church that I am still a part of to this very day. And so I go there, and I experience it. And I'm like, you know what? This is something fresh, something different, something that I haven't experienced before in my life. And I grew up going to church. And for the first time in my life, in my church experience ever, I heard a teaching that was so grounded in doctrine. That was, it was such a biblical teaching, And I'm like, I have never come across that before in my life. And I grew up going to church with my grandmother for years, for my entire childhood, And so I kept going. I kept attending. I kept going to church. And later on in that year, gave my life to Jesus, then got baptized. And by the time we were like the last quarter of that year, I put up my hand to serve. And the first team, the team that I put up my hand to serve in, was the welcome team. And what this team basically does is they are the team that welcomes and greets all the congregants and everyone who is entering, coming to church, making their way into the building, into the service. It was that team that was greeting people, smiles, welcome to church, have a great experience, welcome, So I joined that team, and I was part of that welcome team. Maybe a couple of weeks, going to a month later, I put my hand up again, served in another team, and this team was called the Venue Safety Team. And this team, what it was meant, what was the primary role and function for this team was ensuring the safety of the venue, the safety of everyone who is within the premises, ensuring the structured and ordered flow of traffic, flow of the service, just overall safety of everyone that is within the vicinity. Now, disclaimer. In that time, I was a very skinny guy. So I had no business whatsoever being in a venue safety team. Nothing about me said safety. Nothing about me said protector. Nothing about me said, if it goes down, this guy's got me, But here I was. I was very eager. I was zealous. I was so passionate. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to serve. And so that was the second team I was in. Then a few weeks later as well, put my hand up again. Another team to serve in. Now, this team was called the pastoral care team. What this team was doing, it was basically ensuring the overall care of the congregants, of the volunteers that serve in the church. This team was the team that would pray for individuals after the service. They would intercede for the service before the service starts. They'd be interceding during the service. They were the prayer warriors. They were the intercessors. They would do home visits. They would do hospital visits, midweek phone calls, anything pastorally that falls under that pastoral brackets and just caring for your congregation and your community. That was the team, pastoral care. And I was like, yes, I'm going to serve in that team as well. Mind you, I'm still in the welcome team. I'm still in the venue safety team. And now it's pastoral. So 3 teams in a matter of months. We go to 2018. 2018, I go to youth. And I have to mention Mike. You've probably seen Mike. Mike was in one of the early episodes in season 1. A good friend of mine. He was adamant. He would not take no for an answer. And so he pressed on and he was like, you need to come to youth. You need to come to youth. And eventually he wore me down and I was at youth. And youth basically was, we are discipling and shaping the next generation. This is the high school age group in the church ministry. That was the youth ministry. So it would have youth services on a Friday night. And so every Friday night, I am there championing, discipling, and serving the next generation. And so I'm in that team as well. And I'm still in all these other teams as well. You carry on in 2018, we carry on. I find out that there's a dance team. I'm like, hey, I used to always bop to Chris Brown. Michael Jackson was such an influence on me in terms of having the moves. I have an older cousin that I looked up to. He was the Majaivan of the family. And I was like, I followed in his footsteps. So I was like, hey, I have rhythm. Let me join that team. So I said yes to the dance team. And so all of these teams, I'm doing them at the same time, all of them. And at some point, there was a point that I got to where I was like, capacity is happening. Mind you, I am still a student. The mission I came to accomplish in Johannesburg was to obtain my undergraduate degree. So I'm still a student, right? And if you're a student or you were a student once upon a time, you know what the student life is like. You know what it requires, what it takes. You know that, hey, man, it's a different game compared to high school. You get there and you see flames. So it's not that course is easy. But I'm doing all of these things. And so I started realizing now I'm starting to find it a bit difficult. Now I'm realizing, the strength, the capacity is becoming a bit difficult. And so I have to start realizing, okay, do I still need to be in this team? Do I really have what it takes to be in this team? The team I'm talking about there is venue safety. But, I started having to recognize and say, okay, I do want to serve. I'm seeing serving in the church as something that is of value. However, where exactly should I serve? Because right now, I'm all over the place. So where should I actually serve? So those questions started coming in, late 2018, going to 2019, and I had to start making those decisions. But for a period, I was doing all of these things and my plate was full. But can I say, I was fulfilled and I somehow managed to do all of these things and do them well. And I was still energized and I was still able to have a social life. I had a girlfriend in 2018 at the time. I was still able to maintain all of these things. I was building friendships, I was still pushing my studies and I was still passing, so I was still carrying them quite well and still energized and still a person who could show up in spaces and show up in the best way. So it was such an interesting thing to recognize that I was doing this. And let me take you through my typical week as a student. Like I said, I was skinny. Guys, I was skinny. So I was so determined that I need to change this. I need to put on some mass. I invested in protein mass gainers. I got a gym membership at the gym on campus. So my typical day, I would wake up 5 a.m. Monday to Friday. 5 a.m. I'm up. The first 30 minutes, I dedicate that to time with God. I'm reading my word. I'm praying. Just 30 minutes doing that. And then after that, the next maybe 20 minutes, I'm getting ready, packing my bags, and I'm out, heading to campus, right? On my way to campus, by the time I arrive at the gym, it's probably around 6 a.m. 6 a.m., I'm starting my workout, right? Go hard on my workout, maybe 6:15, 6:30, around there. Start my workout. I have about a 45 to 1 hour workout, go in hard, Then it's probably around like 7:20, 7:30. I'm hitting the showers, I'm freshening up, getting ready, going for my first lecture, which is at 8 a.m. So at 8, I'm in my first lecture. And then depending, obviously, varsity, it's very different. Days are different. Some days are early days. And by early, I mean you're finishing classes by 11, 12. Average day, you're finishing around 1, 2-ish. A full day of lectures, you're finishing around 4, maybe even 5 if you have tutorials and all these other things. So, I'm having my classes. In between classes is lunch. I hang out with my friends. Maybe I'm at the library pushing some course, preparing for a test or assignments, whatever it is. And then by the end of the day, depending what the day looks like, after the last lecture, I go to the gym because I'm dedicated to gain mass. So I'm at the gym, second workout of the day. Again, that's another 45 to 1 hour session, freshen up, and then make my way back to my room. Now, between campus and where I was staying, it was church was in the middle. So on my way, either to campus or back to my room, I'm going to pass the church building. And so I'd always stop when I'm going back to my place in the afternoon. I'll stop by, greet whoever's there, the pastors that are there, the staff, the team that's there, the volunteers and, the interns, greet them, mingle a bit, have some conversations, whatever it is, just socialize a bit. So that could be about maybe, depending on the day, maybe I'm spending 30 minutes, maybe from between 30 minutes to maybe even 2 hours, depending on what the day is like, what the conversations are like, just building community and socializing a bit before I then ultimately make my way back to my room. By the time I get to my room, maybe I'm grabbing something to eat and I have about maybe an hour or 2 of downtime just to myself. Now, I'm not going to lie to you and say I was studying, pushed, a good hour or 2 of studying. Nope. I was most of the time, 95% of the time, I'm watching The Big Bang Theory, my all-time favorite TV show. Or I'm watching something else, some other series, How I Met Your Mother, whatever it is, something that I enjoy. And then by the time it's like 6 p.m., 6:30, I'm making my way to church. Now, depending on the day, there was something happening in the evening at church. So on a Monday, there was Man Up. I didn't mention Man Up. There was a men's group. There's a men's group at our church, and this is small groups of men that would meet in different spaces across Johannesburg. And the focus and the intention of it was discipleship, coming around the word, fellowship, breaking bread, and just building community, a brotherhood, So I had joined that because I'm like, I saw that, my spiritual formation was something of importance. And so I was like, I want to invest in that. And so I joined that brotherhood. So on Monday nights was for Man Up. And so we were there from about 6:37 p.m. till about 8:30, 9 p.m. That's on a Monday. On a Tuesday, I'm at church again. It is a Youth Leaders Connect. Remember I said I joined the youth ministry. So Youth Leaders Connect, this was where the leaders that serve in the youth ministry get together, build community, come around the word, maybe some training. We also prepare and get information as well of what's coming up in youth. We prepare for the upcoming Friday, all of those preps and other spiritual formation things just to build the rapport of the team. So that's what will be happening on a Tuesday night. Then Wednesday, I was part of Bible study. Again, spiritual formation. So I'm at church on Wednesday nights. It's Bible study. Thursday, I said I joined the dance team. Thursday was for creatives, or still is. It's for creatives. That's your photographers, your musicians, your videographers, the tech guys, the dancers. All of these different creatives come together. They rehearse. We spend time. We break bread sometimes, play games, whatever it is. But we're there as creatives, right? That would be a Thursday night. And then Fridays were for youth. That is our youth program happening. We're serving the young people. We're pouring into and building the next generation. So that was my typical Monday to Friday. Mind you, I still go to class. I still go to the gym. I have friends, so I have a social life that I'm maintaining. 2018, I have a girlfriend, and so I'm also trying to make sure that I'm spending time with my girlfriend. And then not to mention, that's the standard week. There's going to be those outliers, those things, they'll just be thrown in there. Friends want to hang out. Hey, let's go grab ice cream. Hey, we're going to go watch a movie. Hey, it's a FIFA night. So we're going to have a FIFA tournament, whatever it is. So it was constant late nights. And then by the time I'm done, I'm probably back in my room. By the average time I'm back in my room is like a 10 p.m., depending on if there's anything happening after whatever was happening. And then I'll have like something to eat and then go to bed. And then wake up again, 5 a.m., and I'm on it again. A Saturday, I might have it to myself. I might have some downtime. Maybe I'm hanging out with friends. Maybe I'm going on a date with my girlfriend, whatever it is, something's happening. Maybe it's a church conference, so I'm at a conference on a Saturday. And then Sunday, there were 4 services at the time. This was before COVID happened. There were 4 services, 2 in the morning, 2 in the evening. I was there for the entire day at church. This is what I was doing. This was my student life between 2017 and 2020. Speak about capacity. But like I said, there's a point, you hit a wall, you start seeing that, hey, I'm all over the place. And then at that point, certain things started falling away. So if I compare now to where I am, now I'm married, now I have a kid, I'm working, I still serve at church, but now there is more intentionality in the things that I actually do and the things that I put my hands to. I'm not all over the place the way I saw I was between the years 2017 and 2020. Which then takes me to the takeaways, the things that I want us to maybe draw from here, and maybe some things that we can understand here. Before, and to start us off, I just want to mention this quote, which is found in Romans 5, verses 3 and 4. And it says, "We can rejoice too when we run into problems and trials, for we know that they help us develop endurance. And endurance develops strength of character, and character strengthens our confident hope of salvation." And I feel like this just echoes the quote I read in the beginning, that the quote by Professor Masego, that when we find ourselves like we're all over the place, like you're doing so much, and it's a challenge after a challenge. Now you need to juggle. Now you need to be at youth, but then you have an assignment that you need to prepare. I remember there was a time, I think it was 2018, if not 2019, in the middle of the year, during that school break, the June holidays, there is a conference that we do in our church for the youth ministry, right? And we gather in all the youth across Gauteng. And this happens in the middle of the holidays. And I remember for this particular year, if I'm not mistaken, it was 2019. I thought to myself, oh man, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I had a presentation that was on day 1 of the conference, right? I don't have a car, so the conference is happening in Pretoria. I have a presentation, a group presentation I need to do on campus on day 1 of the conference, meaning I'm going to miss the bus that goes to Pretoria for the conference. But I was so passionate and I was so convicted about serving in this ministry. I was like, I need to be at Encounter. So I made a plan. I spoke to my pastor, hey, when are you driving? Oh, I'm going to be driving at this time. Okay, I'll be done with my presentation. Can I please ride with you? And so you're now finding yourself juggling things and trying to find how you're going to do this and capacity. And sometimes it seems very difficult and nearly impossible. And like I said, at some point I had to start evaluating, okay, do I really need to serve in this space? Because you're going to be all over the place in the beginning. Like, I don't want to be naive and say, you know exactly what you're doing. You know your purpose, you know your gifting, and you know exactly what you need to do. In the younger years, your early 20s, you're still figuring so many things out. You're gonna more than likely find yourself all over the place. And I definitely found myself like I'm all over the place. But as I continue to just being faithful, to just showing up, to just continue pouring into these spaces, guess what? I was starting to gain wisdom. My understanding was growing. My endurance was growing, and then I started realizing, oh, you know what? I'm really good at this. Oh, you know what? This I'm not so good at. Oh, that actually, I think there's something there. I need to dig deeper in that area. This place is stretching my capacity and I'm finding myself being able to do this more. And so I found that taking place. And when that happens, I would then realize, you know what? Welcome team, I feel like it's actually run its course. I think we're good now. We can say goodbye to that. And so I said goodbye to the welcome team. And then some months later, I was like, you know what? Even though I'm starting to gain a few kilos, muscle is gaining, venue safety, hey, man, I don't have what it takes. I feel like, the stereotype or the general idea or the general notion, let me rather call it, that we have, or perception that we have about Zulu people, they're brave and they strong people, and they maybe aggressive or violence and all of that. I feel like I'm bringing down the average, if I'm being honest. I'm not that guy. I'm not the bravest guy you're gonna come across. As far as the Zulus go, hey man, I feel like I'm the least. Honestly speaking, I'm just not built that way. If I'm really being vulnerable in my household, if a spider shows up, I'm calling my wife. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm not built that way. I can't. I'll kill the cockroach. I'll kill the moth that flies in, whatever. If I see a spider, my skin, something, I am convinced I think it's called an arachnophobia. I believe I have it. So I was like, you know what, venue safety, I don't think that's my space. I don't think I have what it takes for that space. I said goodbye to that place. And eventually at some points, pastoral care as well. I was like, you know what, I've served as best as I can. It's time to say goodbye. And then the last things that remained for a while was the youth ministry as well as the dance team, right? And then obviously the things that were for my spiritual formation, such as the men's group on the Mondays and the Bible studies on Wednesdays, right? So as I was going, I started realizing, okay, this is for me. This is not for me. Okay, I should remain here. Maybe I should actually take this off my plate. And that comes over time as you are learning, as you are discovering more about yourself, as you're starting to pick up what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, what your giftings are, you start realizing that this is what I have. And so you probably know the saying, an idle mind is a devil's playground. And I really believe that carries so much truth. Because I've seen it for myself. When I have this free time and I just can lounge and do nothing. And I've found myself in those spaces many times. 100% of the time, I find myself in spaces or doing things that I shouldn't be doing. For me, at that time, I would find myself now I am in pornography. I would find myself that I'm binge watching. And it's like, this is not fruitful at all. Like there would be days where I would binge watch. And I'm not proud to say this. It would be in season sometimes where it's exam season. So I should be studying. But instead, I am going through watching the entire Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, all 5 films in one day. That's not fruitful. I'm being idle. And so when you find yourself, you in your younger years, maybe you're in your early 20s, maybe you just finished, matric and now you're in varsity, and you just find yourself in this space where you have so many things happening. You are playing tennis, and then you're also playing hockey, and then you're also in the debate team, and then you're also pushing you're pushing your studies, you're part of the SRC, and then you're serving in church, and you're doing and it's like you're all over the place. I am here to say, it's actually serving a purpose. Yes, at first it's going to seem like you're all over the place, but it's actually serving a purpose. So the next thing to take from this is we then need to differentiate between busyness and effectiveness. Like I've been saying, at first it's going to be like you're all over the place, and that's okay. You're still figuring it out. You're just putting your hand to things that you feel like, you know what, you love this, you enjoy this, you want to do this, you want to enjoy that, Even now, at this current stage that I'm at, I still find myself putting my hands to certain things, but there's a bit more intentionality. A simple example. Last year, or I think 2 years ago, actually, 2 years ago, I saw a gap within church. I was like, you know what, I don't see drummers. And I had started teaching myself how to play drums. But at the time when I was teaching myself, it was just for myself. I really I love the instrument. And I was like, oh man, how amazing would it be to just be able to play some of my favorite songs, just jam randomly. So I started teaching myself. And then one Sunday, I kid you not, it was during worship and everyone was there. You have a keys player, you have a guitarist, you have the worshipers, the vocalists. And then the drum set was there and there was no one. And I just felt convicted. I was like, man, there's a space. Maybe I can fill it. And so I put up my hand and I started serving in that space. And I served for probably close to 2 years. And by the end of last year, I was like, you know what? I think I've done what was needed. Now I need to take a step back from this specific area, because by that time there were now, if I'm not mistaken, 3 to 4 drummers that were on rotation on rosters serving, from no drummers to 4, So I was like, you know what? I think I did what the season needed me to do, and then I stepped back. So you start realizing and differentiating between busyness and effectiveness, because now I knew primarily, I'm not primarily a drummer. I'm not primarily gifted in that space. My gift lies elsewhere. And so when I knew what my gift is, I'm now more intentional that whatever it is that I put my hand to, I need to ask myself, in what way does it pour into this gift? Is it enhancing this gift? Or am I serving from this gift if I'm putting my hand to this? So that now informs the things that I actually put my hand to. And some things might be directly related to the gift, right? But then right now is not the time for that. So now it's also being able to understand timing. This is not the season for it. Maybe in the next 3 months, I can visit this. Because right now, I have this project and I know it's going to be done in the next 2 months. Then I can revisit and then see if I can have capacity to add this thing onto my plate. So as you go and as you start developing the wisdom and as you start understanding yourself more and how you've been equipped, and what it is that you are convicted, that you are called to, that is meant to be your life's purpose, you then be more intentional with what you put your hand to, right? So we need to differentiate between busyness and effectiveness. Then, the next thing is that there is always something for you to give and to get. So in whatever you're doing, realize and recognize, understand that you are pouring in, but that space, that area, that field, that team is also pouring into you. For example, I'll use the youth ministry as an example. I've been in that ministry for 8 years. And in that 8 years, yes, I have served. I have poured out. I have sacrificed my Fridays, my Friday evenings, always being at youth and serving the young people. But at the same time, I've grown. I'm here right now and I can speak in public as well. I kid you not. When I was growing up, I had stage fright. I was not a confident speaker. I couldn't speak in front of a crowd. My eyes would tear up. My voice would shake and break. I couldn't. But I recognized that gift and that gift of leadership. It was revealed in that space of youth, and it was also then nurtured and growed in that space. So I've poured into that space faithfully for 8 years, but I've also been poured into. And that's something to also recognize, that when you're putting your hand to all these different things and you're serving, you're being faithful, understand that it's a two-way street. You pouring in and you being poured into. And if that's not actually happening, then you need to ask yourself, should I still be in this space? Should I still be giving of my time in this space? Because it is a two-way street. And the last thing here is that what is on your plate should be pouring into your ultimate life's purpose. I've already spoken on this. I've been touching on this. And you need to recognize this when you're now aware of what it is that you're gifted at, what it is that is your life's purpose that you've been called to. You then can be intentional with knowing that whatever it is that I'm putting my hands to, whatever it is that I'm doing, is pouring into ultimately what my life's purpose is. So, what are the principles that I've taken away from understanding this thing of building capacity in my younger years that I also would maybe present to you to consider? The first one is that we need to embrace discomfort. Guys, it's not comfortable. It is not comfortable being stretched in every direction. It's not going to be comfortable. You are serving at church, you're pushing studies, you maybe have a part-time job, you're building a social life as well, and then you play sports, you do all these things. It's demanding. Like, it will pull you in so many directions. I remember whenever I'd have the opportunity of interviewing a prospect youth leader, that wants to serve in the youth ministry, I would tell them upfront, you are not always going to feel like being here. There are going to be Fridays where you don't want to be here. And that's the reality in anything in life. No matter how enjoyable it is, you might be that gym person, you love going to the gym. I enjoy going to the gym. Hey man, there are certain mornings where when that alarm goes off, I don't want to get up. Winters are hard. That blanket is so warm and I need to get out of that bed at 5:30 and get ready and go to the gym. Please, something else. No, let's stay in bed. So It's not always going to be convenient. It's not always going to be something you want to do. We need to become individuals that can find the comfort in the discomfort. We can become comfortable with discomfort because that's the only way we grow. That's the only way the talents, the gifts, the potential can be exposed. It's under the pressure, it's in the discomfort. It's when we are taken out of our comfort zone that we then realize that, oh man, had I not been put in this uncomfortable position, I wouldn't have recognized that I have this potential within me. So we need to become comfortable with discomfort. The second thing, we need to take care of our physical well-being. I realize that, and more as I continue, that I need to become a person who's very intentional with my physical well-being. This body, this temple needs to carry me for as long as possible. Because the only way I'm going to be effective in this life is as long as I am still in this body and this body is still alive. I remember there was a time back in 2020, a friend of mine, we were driving together, we were going to a church conference, and this was before COVID, so early 2020. And I was just kind of venting and telling them like how I have so many things going on. Let me just say this. In that year, I was doing my final year at Wits, but I also signed up to be a full-time intern at church. I don't know what I was smoking. I don't know what was going on, but I was just so convinced, and I was like, we're going to do this. And so here I am, I'm venting to this friend, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I need to, the internship, it's demanding, it's full-time, but I'm still a full-time student, not a part-time student. And then I'm serving here, I'm doing that. Man, I don't have the capacity. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And this friend said to me, listen, I get you and I understand, but I need you to also understand and recognize that right now, this is the most free you're going to be. This is the most free time you ever going to have. This is the most capacity, free capacity you're ever going to have. So right now, yes, it might feel like it's like you're at a bottleneck and you literally have so much on your plate, but this is the most free you're going to be. Because one day you're going to be a father. One day you're going to be a husband. One day you're going to be a businessman. You're going to be a top exec at work. You're going to be a church pastor. Or, some of these things, who knows where God is going to call you and to what positions and levels He's going to call you to. And when you're at those spaces, when you're holding those positions, it's just going to demand more and more of your time. And so you need to find the pockets. Find the pockets, no matter how demanding your schedule looks. Find the pockets of rest. Find the pockets where you can unwind. Find those little pockets in your day, the Saturday. Like for me now, I try to keep my Saturdays as empty as possible. I try to be intentional that my Saturdays are for my family. I'm on the couch, we're watching something, we are going for a walk, we're going to the park, we're going to go out for lunch, whatever, we're going to have play some games as a family, whatever it is, but we try to be intentional with that. Why? Because I understand that because my schedule is so demanding, because I have so many things that are demanding of my time, I need to ensure that I find the pockets where I can rest, where I can unwind, where I can read a book, I can go for a walk, I can take a nap, I can go see a therapist, I can go play some tennis or something like that is recreational, that allows me to, just unwind and empty my mind, of all the different things that I need to constantly think about and plan and strategize on. I need that if I'm going to show up at my best. And so that is something we need to be very intentional with. Otherwise, we're going to find ourselves getting to this term which we've loved so much in this day and age, which is burnout. Burnout is real. And I believe that burnout is a result of us not being intentional with our physical well-being, not being intentional with rest. Find a day for Sabbath. Find a pocket in the day. Like, for example, at work, when I'm in the office and I'm like, what, I've been sitting down for a while, I stand up, I go out, I take a walk around the business complex. That's just a way for me to woosa. I come back, maybe I go make a cup of coffee. We have an espresso machine and, I did train as a barista. So then I go and make some coffee. I'll ask some guys around the office, does anyone want a coffee? I enjoy making coffee. I get to unwind. And so I go there, maybe I'm making 3 or 4 cups of coffee for some colleagues. I make that, give them their coffee, get back to my desk, carry on working. It was a moment, even though it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, a moment for me to breathe, to just empty my mind a bit and to just calm myself and then get back to the business of life. So ensure that you are taking care of your physical well-being. And then the last one, build healthy and strong relationships. If you are a person of high capacity, you're a person who, you're doing all of these different things. You're excelling at work, you're excelling in your studies, you're excelling at work with your family, in your marriage, excelling in your friendships, all of these different things. You want to build good relationships because you will do and go much further with others than you would alone. So recognize that partnerships, friendships, and relationships are very, very pivotal. They are very important in this journey of life that we're on. So take the time to invest and really pour into and grow good and healthy friendships. Invest into those relationships and partnerships that you can make in the business place, in the workplace, in the church space, because that's where you then find yourself, where you can collaborate and partner with other individuals in different endeavors. So recognizing that, because I can't be everything, I can't do it all. And this is something I recognized in the space. My wife and I, for the past 3 years, we were the youth pastors in the youth ministry. And we recognized in that space that, yes, we've been called to be overseers and lead this ministry as a whole. But guess what? We're not going to do it on our own. We were stewarding about 20 leaders. Ain't no way my wife and I are going to pastor and disciple those 20 leaders on our own. And so we knew we had to come with systems. We knew we had to have partnerships. We had to have teams. We had to have individuals that we are going to do this together with. And that's the main point here is, please take the time and be intentional with building the relationships and partnerships, because you can go so much further and do so much more with a team than you would alone. And so that's it for this episode. And I hope that there was something that you could take away from it. And until next time, please remember that the man you're becoming is much better than the man you are today.